RZA got into some with Tyreek got his chain snatched, got punched in his mouth, got beat. No, got wrestled up a little bit. Got real funky. It was a club. It got real rowdy, and Pac got his chain back.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying?
He got his ass whooped in there. Where they ended up snatching his chain while they were whooping his ass, right? And he's outnumbered. No disrespect to the Wu-Tang guys.
They want to be an artist and want to stay a star. Don't want to have to worry about the executive producer trying to be all in the video, all on the record, dancing. Come to Death Row.
August 1995, New York City. The night the Source Awards lit the fuse for a coast-to-coast showdown. Suge Knight took a direct swing at Puff Daddy, but the tension wasn't just hovering over Bad Boy.
This is a situation that has something to do with, two crews, two rival teams. We know Puff and them was creaming them back then. And Death Row, at that time they was doing they. So you know how it goes.
Wu-Tang Clan, 9 sharp voices out of Staten Island, carried an energy heavier than entire record labels. Just a year later, at Suge's Las Vegas hotspot, Club 662.
Everybody got this thing like, yo, we imbeciles. You know what I mean? Yo, the is gonna jump on your back and bite you in the neck and this and that. And then when they get to meet us, it's like, damn, y'all some real respectable, loving guy.
RZA got jumped and his chain snatched. A bold move right on Death Row turf. Word spread through the streets like wildfire. Old Dirty Bastard warned, this guy's not leaving New York alive. This wasn't just rap beef anymore. It was a powder keg with sparks flying everywhere. The mid-90s became hip-hop's most dangerous era. Headlines screamed East Coast versus West Coast. But behind the headlines, people's lives and futures were really on the line.
But it's the image. So to me, the image was taken out of proportion and made it be this and made it be that, instead of it actually really being that situation.
Suge Knight, once a football player turned bodyguard, had evolved into one of the most feared executives in the game. By co-founding Death Row Records, he turned the label into the crown jewel of the West. Launching careers of Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, and Tupac Shakur, Suge stood for both luxury and menace, stacking his empire with intimidation as much as strategy.
A couple months earlier, one of they had got, he was in our club, 662, and somebody snatched his chain, put hands on it. We got the chain back and found that nigga. That's love. And I went to Method Man like, yo, we handled that, man. We want to talk to you. That was never our order.
Meanwhile, over on Staten Island, Wu-Tang Clan was flipping the industry upside down. RZA wasn't just forming a rap group. He built a movement, a lifestyle, a worldwide identity. Beside him stood Jeezy, Old Dirty Bastard, Method Man, Raekwon, Ghostface Killer, Inspector Deck, U-God, and Master Killer. 9 powerful voices that couldn't be silenced, not even by Suge Knight's shadow.
I remember dragging him in, but the whole time he hollering, they got my chain, man, they got my chain.
When their debut Enter the Wu-Tang, 36 Chambers dropped in 1993, it cracked the rap world wide open. Raw, authentic, and rugged. It felt truer than anything East Coast fans had touched in years. Their rise shook rivals, grabbed industry attention, and caught Suge's eye. Unlike solo acts, Wu-Tang moved like a brotherhood, impossible to break or control. The flashpoint came at Madison Square Garden during the 1995 Source Awards, hip-hop's biggest stage. More than trophies, reputations were on the line. Suge stepped up to claim Best Motion Picture Soundtrack above the rim and dropped one of rap's most infamous shots.
A couple months earlier, one of they had got, he was in our club, 662, and somebody snatched his chain, put hands on it. We got the chain back and found that nigga. That's love.
Any artist that want to be a star and don't want to worry about the exec producer dancing in videos, come to Death Row. The industry exploded that night. Some roared with cheers, others rained down boos. East Coasters glared with pride while West Coasters clapped like it was their anthem. And right in the middle of all that noise, Wu-Tang was watching every move. Wu-Tang wasn't wrapped up in the feud, but they weren't background players either. They lit up the stage with Ice Cream, and Method Man even grabbed a win for How High with Redman. Still, even with trophies in hand, the atmosphere was thick. You could cut the tension with a knife. Raekwon later broke it down, saying it felt less like an award show and more like a battlefield. It wasn't no East Coast, West Coast war. It was two rival crews. The media blew it up that night. Wu-Tang didn't pick sides. They didn't ride with Bad Boy even though they were East Coast. And they didn't roll with Death Row despite Meth's California ties.
Somebody tapped my shoulder, I turned around, it's Pac. He there with Suge. Now the whole time Pac is talking, I can't concentrate.
He's telling me about some incident that happened with RZA in Vegas, and if he was there, it definitely wouldn't have happened, blah, blah, blah.
They moved on their own terms. But don't mistake neutrality for weakness, not with Wu-Tang. Everybody knew they could hold their ground in the streets. Their affiliates held weight across the nation, and even Suge Knight, a man who thrived on intimidation, respected that fact. What gets overlooked is that Suge didn't just fear Wu-Tang, he also saw opportunity. Journalist Ronan Rowe revealed that Suge even tried to sign some Wu-Tang members, though it went nowhere. By '96, Method Man was on Tupac's All Eyes on Me with Thigh Dog Pound, though Inspector Deck's verse got cut. For Suge, locking down Wu-Tang would have been a bold East Coast power move. For RZA, it was a firm no. Wu-Tang would remain a dynasty of their own making. That Suge reached out at all spoke volumes. He didn't dismiss Wu-Tang, he saw them as equals, maybe even rivals. That quiet tension sat beneath the surface, unspoken but heavy.
If we with anybody on the East Coast, it'll be y'all Wu-Tang nigga. We fucks with y'all Wu-Tang.
By 1996, Death Row ran the charts. Pac's All Eyes on Me and Snoop Dogg's dominance crowned Suge's empire. But at the same time, Wu-Tang dropped Wu-Tang Forever, stacking up multi-platinum numbers and proving they were kings of the East. The rap game turned into a chessboard with Suge and Wu-Tang as power pieces circling, never clashing head-on but always watching each other. Tupac made things even more complicated. Despite Suge's backing, Pac had real New York roots and love for Wu-Tang. He openly admired Method Man and RZA, and that made Suge uneasy. If Pac respected them, Death Row couldn't treat Wu-Tang as enemies. Whispers spread about Suge's crew trying to intimidate Wu-Tang at a New York event. Nothing popped off.
And I remember looking up, and Suge was like this, going in his mouth, looking down at me like this. Nothing, no expression, just you know what I mean? Stoic, because the cameras is on. He in Suge mode, so I'm like, yeah.
But the real breaking point came in Las Vegas, inside Club 662. RZA got jumped and his chain stolen. He straight up disrespect on Suge's turf. But before war could ignite, Pac stepped in. U-God remembered Pac tracking down the thief, returning the chain to RZA, and telling everybody this wasn't a Death Row move. Pac even checked Suge's men for crossing Wu-Tang. ODB, though, wasn't built for calm. Ghostface recalled him snapping, "This guy's not leaving New York alive." The crew had to drag him back before things turned ugly. Wu-Tang knew the stakes. One wild night could spark a fire nobody could control. Method Man later painted a surreal picture of a 1996 Soul Train after party in LA. High on mushrooms, he bumped into Puff, then Tupac and Suge all in the same room. Pac brought up the Vegas chain snatching, telling Meth it never would have gone down if he had been there. Then Pac locked eyes with him and said, "If there's anybody we'd mess with on the East Coast, it'd be Wu-Tang." Those words hit like a lifeline. Pac made it clear Wu-Tang wasn't on his hit list. This wasn't about East Coast versus West Coast, it was Bad Boy versus Death Row, period. Method Man remembered the scene vividly. Suge standing silent in the corner, cigar smoke curling, face like stone, while Pac played diplomat. It was tense, but Pac's open respect for Wu-Tang kept that moment from exploding into something ugly. Reggie Wright Jr., Death Row's former head of security, later confirmed it. Pac was the one putting out fires, not starting them.
Backstage, Tupac said he was ready to battle Death Row's East Coast nemesis, the people from Bad Boy Records.
They see us and they want drama, we gonna definitely bring it like only Death Row could bring it.
One stolen chain could have turned into all-out war, But even in the middle of his own bloody feud with Biggie, Pac went out of his way to shield Wu-Tang's name. That was genuine respect, no politics, no hidden agenda. That same year, the MTV Video Music Awards carried the same energy. Glitz on the surface, but underneath it felt like two armies walking into a battleground. Death Row rolled in deep with Pac, Snoop, and Suge, while Wu-Tang stood tall for the East Coast. Inside Radio City Music Hall, every glance and every nod carried the weight of a chess move. And yet, nothing happened. That night became legendary precisely because the violence stayed bottled up. By then, the lines were clear. It wasn't the East against the West. It was Bad Boy against Death Row. Wu-Tang stood apart, untouched by the war. Pac even squashed beef with Nas backstage, and ODB told interviewers he loved both Pac and Biggie, begging the culture for peace. But then came September 7th, 1996, Las Vegas. After the Tyson fight, Tupac cruised the strip in Suge's BMW, just blocks away from Club 662, the same spot where Wu-Tang tension had nearly sparked. Gunfire tore through the car. Pac took 4 bullets. 6 days later, he was gone. The rap world froze in shock. Death Row unraveled almost overnight. Suge got arrested for parole violations caught on tape. Dre had already walked away. Without Pac, the empire crumbled, and Suge's aura of being untouchable cracked wide open. For Wu-Tang, Pac's death wasn't just another tragedy it was a warning shot. They knew how close things had come in Vegas when RZA got jumped and his chain stolen. They remembered ODB's fury that almost blew the roof off. Pac's murder proved just how fragile it all was. One spark could torch the whole culture. Looking back, the what if is chilling. What if Wu-Tang had snapped and struck back in Vegas? What if Death Row had pushed harder in New York?
But we always felt like we wasn't a part of it because we had respect from Death Row. We had respect from Bad Boy. Like I said, it was just a competitive sport back in the 90s that had everybody going bump.
Picture 9 hard-bodied Staten Island MCS with deep street ties clashing against Suge's blood-affiliated army in LA. That would have been a war with no winners. The body count would have been devastating and the media would have poured gasoline on it, feeding the East-West fire until hip-hop itself collapsed. The culture was already bleeding. Pac gone, Biggie dead 6 months later. If Wu-Tang versus Death Row had erupted, the so-called golden era might have ended not in music history, but in ashes. And yet, the war never came. Wu-Tang refused to let themselves be pawns on somebody else's chessboard. RZA, always the strategist, kept his eyes locked on empire building. Wu-wear clothing, solo projects, worldwide tours. They didn't need to prove toughness in a war that wasn't even theirs. Even Suge Knight, as ruthless as his rep was, respected Wu-Tang's power. This wasn't just a rap crew. It was 9 generals with a global army at their back. Picking a fight with them wasn't just dangerous, it was bad business all around. When RZA's chain got snatched in Vegas, it was Tupac who stepped in and drew the line. He personally made sure it was returned, sending a message crystal clear: Wu-Tang wasn't the enemy. Pac knew the difference between hip-hop competition and an all-out street massacre, and he refused to let the line get blurred. By 1997, Wu-Tang dropped Wu-Tang Forever. Instead of celebrating Pac's death or Death Row's collapse, they mourned for the culture itself. Tracks like A Better Tomorrow and Impossible carried messages of loss, unity, and survival. They weren't out to throw gas on the flames. They were trying to keep hip-hop alive during one of its darkest chapters. Meanwhile, Death Row was crumbling piece by piece. Suge was locked up, Snoop slid over to No Limit, Dre built Aftermath, and Pac was gone. Still, even in the ruins, respect lingered. In 1999, Kurupt dropped a diss track that called out almost every East Coast rapper diss except Wu-Tang. He called them family. Proof that even rivals recognized the clan as untouchable. Connections even grew in unexpected ways. Raekwon later signed with Dre's Aftermath. Wu affiliates like Killer Priest linked with Kurupt and others to form the supergroup HRSMN. What once felt like sparks for a street war turned into collaboration and shared history. Wu-Tang walked out of the 90s scarred but standing strong. Bad Boy lost Biggie, Death Row lost Pac, but Wu-Tang avoided the worst fate, and because their neutrality wasn't weakness, it was strategy. Their power came not from pulling triggers, but from knowing when to step back and build. ODB's threats, RZA's chain snatching, Meth's tense run-ins, every one of those moments could have been the spark. But Wu-Tang chose empire over ego, and that choice saved them. The what if still chills the mind. What if Suge had gone full war with Wu-Tang? Picture Death Row soldiers and Blood affiliates clashing with Staten Island's crews. The Source Awards could have ended in riots. Club 662 could have turned into a massacre. The golden era of hip-hop could have ended not with platinum plaques, but with blood in the streets. Instead, the culture got survival. The culture got Wu-Tang forever. In the end, the saga of Suge Knight and Wu-Tang isn't about the war they fought, it's about the war that never happened. Two of the most feared forces in rap locked eyes stared each other down and chose to step back. In doing so, they gave hip-hop something rare in the 90s, survival for the culture itself. Because the war never came, and that's why to this very day, Wu-Tang is forever. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to like, subscribe, share, and drop a comment with your thoughts. I'll catch you on the next one.